swim fans. This is Jason Hughes from the Swim Guys podcast. Today's show is just with me. Rory was unfortunately not able to make it to today's episode, but I'd like to take some time to thank you for coming back to the second episode. This episode is with Michael Andrew. Our first episode with Taylor McEwen was fantastic. We had way more downloads than we expected for the first episode. So thank you to Taylor. Shout out to Taylor for helping to promote the show via her social media, as well as any friends, family who were able to get the word out. And it was a great first week. Hopefully it's just going to get bigger and better from there. For today's episode, though, we interviewed Michael Andrew. Now, this interview took place a few months ago. It was before Michael had his amazing summer. And as many of you know, this summer he went on to win 4 events at the U.S. Nationals, as well as getting a bronze medal in the 100 fly. He won. He almost had a clean sweep of the 50s, and he had a gold in the 100 breaststroke as well. And then he went on to become your new Pan-Pacific champion in the 50-meter freestyle, and we couldn't be more proud of him as a guest on the show, and now a friend of the show. So we're going to get into that as well. We're going to be talking about his Instagram accounts and his YouTube accounts, because he's got a great YouTube channel, which is just Michael Andrew. If you're looking to get into or get access to those and you don't have them already, just click on the show notes on our website at swimguys.com, and we're going to link you right to his YouTube channel and his Instagram. They're very great. He's very interactive, and I'm sure that if you have any questions or comments, he'll get right back to you. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. I'm not going to give you the rest of his resume, because we're just going to get into the show. So, with that, enjoy the show.
Here's Michael.
Awesome. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for giving me some of your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. How's everything going? How's training going?
Training's going amazingly. Yeah, we've, I guess it's kind of the final push now for Nationals in end of July.
Yep.
But everything's going really well. We've added a couple things to our regime, and it's very promising, I guess. Like, I've really enjoyed it, and so it's been kind of nice to experiment a little bit with it and just feel like it's helping us get to where we want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, we'll definitely talk about your YouTube channel and stuff, but I love following all the videos and updates you've been giving. It's really interesting.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got a new one coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm posting another one.
Yeah. That's great. What's the subject for tomorrow?
Tomorrow is going to be a tutorial on how to blow horizontal ring bubbles.
Yeah, I think I saw you asking if people wanted to learn how to do it.
But it'll be fun, and I've got a little bit of like a sneak peek as to like how I train for the 50 and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It should be worth to see.
So you're are you swimming pretty like the same events coming up to the Nationals this year, or any changes coming up?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a change. I mean, the focus is still the same, so mostly sprints, but usually so like Olympic trials, Nationals, I've always been known to show up, do all the 100s and like the 2 IM and the 50 free.
Yeah.
And this Nationals, I'm swimming all 4 50s.
Yeah.
100 fly, 100 breast, and 100 free.
Okay.
And so we've decided to drop the 2 IM because the way I'm training, my focus is really all towards the 50s, the sprints, and my 100 fly and 100 breast have always been very good. And right now, my 100 breaststroke's looking amazing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we see our best chance to get a ticket to Pan Pacs and then, God willing, 2019 World Champs. Which is crazy because they select the team a whole year in advance. But
yeah, I'm up in Canada, so we're I watch you guys. I mean, clearly it works for your system because you're like the American qualifying system, because you guys dominate all the time. But every time I look at it, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But
no, it doesn't. And so 2 years ago, they did this for, I think it was Kazan. And it was the worst world championships the U.S. had ever had.
Yeah.
And it's because having selected the team a whole year in advance, a lot of athletes either come up or the old guys get worse. And so you send this team that's like half ready when it's, it was really interesting. And so I obviously I think the reason they're doing it again is because, it's all about the 4-year plan or the whole Olympic cycle.
Yeah.
But it will be a detriment of world champs, but I guess that's not the main prize. But for a lot of athletes, you don't make a world championship team, you lose bonus chances, you lose endorsements, you lose TV time, all sorts of things. But
not to mention the people that may, like 2019 is every year somebody has a breakout year, right? So next year, somebody who would normally have a breakout year, you're not going to see it. And if next year is their year, they kind of miss out on that experience going into an Olympic year. I don't know. I mean, I'm clearly not an expert. I would say I'm a swim nerd. I'm not a swim expert. Like I'm good
that's awesome.
I'm good with data. I'm good with I'm good at regurgitating, but I should not be a decision maker.
No, I think we need some more swim nerds in the world of swimming because a lot of people aren't willing to investigate and learn because they're so set in their ways.
Yeah.
I think you're willing to take it all in and then decipher from there.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
And I guess, you experienced that firsthand just with, I don't know how to term your training. Like I know the term, like the USRPT, but I don't know if unorthodox is the right word. It's definitely not common, but it's there's science behind it, and I know that you're an advocate for it, but you probably get a lot of pushback too. Like it's a
oh yeah. No, it's been crazy, and a lot of it's actually changed just in the last couple months, maybe a year. So when we first came out with this whole, we're doing USRPT, and obviously at the time I was breaking national records every weekend, just going these insane times at like 14 years old. And there's a Swimming World article every week.
Yeah.
And people started like, okay, like what's happening with this kid? What's going on? And so, they asked the questions about how we train, and we spoke to them and said, we've always been very open about the way we do things and why we do it.
Yeah.
And so we shared, we're doing USRPT. It's all pace. It's short. The problem, again, is like people look at the numbers. They look at how much yards are you doing, and they think if you're not doing so many yards, you obviously can't be able to hold it for so long. And we've disproved that, and science has disproved that. And so now that I feel like in the beginning people thought, oh, this can work for some age grouper for a couple of years, and then they'll fall off. Yeah. And a lot of people thought I had fallen off at a point, and maybe I had a rough season, but they see now that I'm back at an elite level where I'm top in the world in multiple events, and it's hard for them to refute the way we've trained because there's results behind it. And so there's a lot of master's programs, high school programs, teams that are coming to us and saying, hey, we love what you guys are doing. How do we do it ourselves, and how do we implement it? And so it's been an exciting movement to kind of be pioneering, I guess. And but in the beginning there was a ton of kickback. Yeah,
I'm sure that. That's nobody likes change.
Right.
NASA's never liked change, but I remember I probably first heard of it. It's got to be about 3 years ago now. I read an article or a blog post written by Josh Davis. Which I believe he met you. Like I think he went to speak with you guys to learn about it, and then he was. So it was his birthday. On his birthday, he actually came out to our house, and that was one of his birthday gifts. He wanted to come and meet me and see how we train and stuff. And so from there, we actually ended up becoming really close family friends. And he's been training now USRPT, kind of his modified version of USRPT. And he's been doing amazing. He's been breaking world records for his age group every time he races. And so very exciting. Now, you said that he modified it, and I read that as well because he was more of a 200 guy. Can it be? And I'm not going to put you on the spot for much longer on USRPT, but I'm interested. When I was a swimmer, I was a distance swimmer. Like it would take me 500-600 meters in a race just to find any sort of rhythm. Can it be modified for somebody that swims 400s or 1500s, or do you find that, I mean, they definitely need more mileage, right?
We actually find it works better for long distance swimmers. And so so it works incredibly for all strokes, but what makes it work for each distance and discipline is how you train it. Obviously, with 100 pace, we do 25s, 15 seconds rest between each 25, trying to make a max of 30. Inside those 30 repeats, we have 3 chances to fail. And in our first round, the goal is to make 4 times race distance, which is 16 25s. That's kind of a gauge, like, okay, I can now take this and hold that theoretically in a race. Mm-hmm. For 200 pace, we do 50s with 20 seconds rest. Same concept, the 30-50s, trying to make 16 in the first round. For, like, say you're training for a 400 or a 500, mm-hmm. you can do 75s or even 100s. Obviously, I never do that because I'm not training for those events. But we have athletes who do, and so we encourage them to do 100s with 20 seconds rest. Once you go higher than 100 pace, the rest interval always stays at 20 seconds.
Okay.
And then, like, for a mile, you could do 200s at mile pace, right? And so the biggest thing is finding the pace and the interval that you need to hold. We don't want you to be doing – so, like, if we're going to train 100 pace, it's really, really tough to get the right amount of repeats doing 50s at 100 pace versus doing 25s at 100 pace.
Yeah.
And so we try and look for that, like 1/4 of the race, because that you can hold in training session with multiple repeats without, killing yourself.
Now, when you say that you have 3 fails, what happens? Let's say you fail a third time. Does that? Is that a reflection that maybe today's not just not going to be a good day, or?
Exactly. So what happens is if we fail a third time, the set ends there. So you can either make 3 fails or 30. You never go more than 30. You really don't want to go more than 3 fails, unless you feel like, okay, I'm motivated, I can push 4 more, right? Mm-hmm. So in those instances, it's good. But other than that, at that third fail, it's usually an indication that your body is neurally broken down. And so it's not like we're going into deep-rooted fatigue in our muscles. It's more a neural failure where your brain is having a short wire and just not firing entirely to the muscles. And there's a little bit of a buildup, maybe lactate or something like that, which is actually a fuel, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's that's a great summary. I mean, you always hear about whether people are advocates, they really speak for it. But I had no idea that you could. I haven't looked into it, obviously, but I haven't heard of it being. I didn't know you could use it for longer distance as well.
Oh, it works amazingly for long distance. There's actually to put it to the test, the scientist Dr. Brent Russell, who founded USRPT, he did this thing with I think 2 swimmers out of Carlisle swim program in Australia. Dr. Brent Russell was Australian originally. And so what they did is they took a guy that races the 50, so his main event is the 50, and they took a miler. Mm-hmm. They had the miler train traditionally for his mile, like he had always been.
Yeah.
And they had the 50 guy train for the mile using USRPT. And the 50 guy, when they came to race, ended up beating the miler because he was so well trained and he knew how to pace the race, he knew the intervals, and his body had been conditioned to hold this pace.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting how a transformation like that from, a 50 to a mile, it's unheard of.
And he would have been doing 200s with 20 seconds rest?
Possibly. I don't know the numbers or what he was doing, but we knew it was 100% USRPT.
Yeah. And you try and go for 4 times the distance, you were saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like for 100 we try and get 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for the summary of USRPT. It really wasn't the purpose of my call, but I'm always grateful that when people really to share. But really, I want to get into like basically what you do. Like I love watching your getting to know videos, and that's really what we're about too. So ours is just more long form. It's very casual, but long form interview, and we just kind of see, you know, where it takes us until you run out of time, or you just decide you're not having a good enough time, I guess.
So this is great. I enjoy speaking to people that are willing to listen.
Yeah, great. Yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, I know a little bit about your history, just what you can get on Wikipedia and what you share on your videos as well. But for people that are new to listening, and we're gonna get into talking about your YouTube channel and stuff, and all the links for those channels, we're gonna make sure, and your Instagram, we're gonna put those links in our show notes as well when this episode is released. So we're happy to share that information, but let's just take us back to the beginning, and then we'll get into some of your experiences with you know, the junior national team, who makes you laugh the most, what you know, we'll get into everything, but let's go back to the beginning here.
Yeah, very cool. So I guess the beginning would be, I guess I'll just start with where I was born. So I was born in Edina, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. My parents are both originally South African, born and raised. They came into the States to work agricultural visas, and we were living in the town of Aberdeen, South Dakota at the time. And one day we were invited to go and do like learn to swim programs. Yeah. And so I learned how to swim. My dad had a background in swimming in South Africa. He swam, was really good, played rugby. Mom was a gladiator, very athletic family.
I read that. And I used to love those gladiator shows.
She still gets people coming up to her like, "Hey, were you laser?" It was super cool. It's funny. But so I learned to swim, progressed really quickly, had a natural feel for the water, just loved it. And by the time I was 8, I started competing. I qualified for state right away. And then we ran into some politics very quickly. We were the foreigners in town. I was this 8-year-old that was doing these crazy things. And it's scary how people are afraid of success. They don't like it. They don't celebrate it. And so we ran into some issues with the team, and we ended up breaking away and starting our own club. We bought a whole entire city block in Main Street, Aberdeen, South Dakota. Our neighbors was the police department. We put a pool in it. It was a condemned nightclub, and we started our own team. And then from there, we swam for a while. But throughout this entire process, our parents were fighting for their citizenship, because being from South Africa. And we ended up having to move to Lawrence, Kansas, which is where we currently live. And, oh, man, I broke my first national record actually in the pool here in Lawrence, Kansas when I was 10 years old. My mom jokes that it took me longer to sign my first autograph than it did to break the national record, which I think it was like 24 seconds at the time. Yeah. So it was quite a fun story. And then we started looking for a place. We found a place here in Lawrence, Kansas. Loved it. We built a pool again, so we've been training here for maybe 7 years now. Yeah. But inside that 7-year period of living in Lawrence and all those transitions, my dad continued to train me as my coach. We found USRPT as our training method in 2009, I believe, and we've been going full on as an entire family unit. My sister cooks everything in the house. My mom, for a time, was my manager/agent. My dad was my coach. So we really operated as a team. We traveled together. We'd race. In that period, in 2016, I went to my very first World Championships. I ended up winning gold in the 100 IM, which was a complete outside chance. No one even thought I was going to podium, let alone win it. And then I've had 2 World Junior Championship experiences, which have been amazing, both receiving Athlete of the Meet, multiple World Junior records, multiple gold medals. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of records, a lot of things that have been broken. It's been really an incredible journey. Most say that I've been a phenom of this world of swimming, and I don't take that lightly. I think that's really a huge honor.
Well, I think if when you say most say that, whoever's not saying it is wrong.
But by the time I was 16, I had broke the most national age group records out of any athlete in the history of swimming. I think the second place to me was Tracy Calkins, maybe. She had like 24 or 40 or something like that. And by the time I was 16, I had, I think, over 100 national records, or close to 100 national records.
Well, when you lose track, it's definitely a lot, and to be mentioned in the same breath as Tracy Calkins is it's pretty amazing too. I mean, she was way before your time, but she was.
Yeah, I've only heard stories.
Pardon me?
No, I've only heard stories of how amazing she was.
Yeah, she was unbelievable, and really, she kind of fell into that boycott timeline as well. That I think more people would know her if that 1980 didn't happen, and then 84. Yeah,
absolutely.
So so you were mentioning that your whole family came together as a unit. Is that still the way it functions? Is your dad still coaching you? And
yep. Yeah, so Dad's still coaching me, and I'd never plan on leaving that. My mom helps me with things that I need to deal with, like when contracts come in and staying on top of things. It's not like my full-on agent, but we aren't really seeking an agent now, which is freeing.
Yeah.
And then my sister, she's actually in South Africa. She's on her way home now in the next couple of weeks, but she's 16 years old, going on 17. I mean, we think she's going on 30. She's incredibly wise. She used to swim with me. She used to be my teammate, but she just doesn't have the same love for the sport. Incredibly talented, but just doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of in the place where she's finding out what's her purpose, and she loves helping the family out and cooking. But I don't see her doing that for much longer because she's got some really exciting aspirations.
Yeah. So who are you going to get to replace her then?
Oh man, I'll have to cook myself. I'll have to learn how to meal prep or something.
Yeah. And
which is hard because she's an incredible chef.
Yeah. Do you have so you said she was your training partner for a while, and swimming at home and with family. Does anybody else train with you?
So we earlier this year we actually had an athlete or a swimmer from Mexico, a friend of mine, come out, and he lived with us for 3 months and trained, and we were helping him prepare for a meet. And so every once in a while we have athletes come and train with us. Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's just me and Dad in the water. Well, Dad's on deck, I'm in the water, but yeah. And I've learned to love it because it's so individual. That's one thing about USRPT is it's so specific to me.
Yeah.
That not a lot of people can really match it, and so it's hard to train to that because maybe a partner almost takes away from it.
Yeah.
And so my training partner has become the stopwatch.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how in the past too, like a lot of my national records were broken in time trials, and people were blown away by that because I had no one to race, right? Yeah. And so I think the way I train, and obviously doing it alone for so long, I've learned to push myself internally, which I think has been a really great tool to have. So.
Well, you kind of have to. I mean, I remember an age group. There was one season where I was with a club, but I was the only distance swimmer, so I was doing my own workouts, and sometimes I'd do a lot of them on my own at the local YMCA, and it's hard to maintain that intensity. Now, I didn't have a coach on deck; he would just kind of write me a workout, and I'd have to do it myself. But it's hard to maintain that intensity if nobody's there. So I'm really impressed that you've been doing it for so long without a consistent group, much less a training partner. But
thank you.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we've been through periods where we clash heads and we figure out, oh, do I need to go train with the program? Do I want this or that? And how's it going to work? And I ultimately come back to the same thing, realizing, what, this is a formula that's worked, and I really enjoy it because we have so much freedom. We have a pool in our backyard. There's a really nice pool in town, and so we have the whole pool to ourselves, essentially, anytime we need it. We aren't kind of limited to a team and the time standards and stuff, and so it's really great.
And how about can we get into your life a little bit outside of the pool? Because if obviously you're not dealing with a commute to the pool, and you can set up your own schedule, so you don't have to get up at 4 a.m, or I'm assuming you don't have to get up at 4 a.m.
No, 6. But yeah.
What kind of keeps you going outside recreationally if you're not looking at the black line at the bottom?
Yeah, absolutely. So recreation, I guess the biggest thing that takes up my time now is video production. So I do a lot with YouTube, and so most of it is just documenting my travels and insights, things I learn and stuff like that. The channel is relatively young and growing quickly, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So that, I also have a group of friends that love fishing, and we have a small pond in our backyard. So whenever I get the chance and it's nice outside, I'll go fishing. My dad and I, it's funny how it came about. A while back, we read a book called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge.
I've heard of it.
And so we went and bought dirt bikes. So we trail ride. We try and live life to the fullest as much as we can inside of being a professional athlete and, having boundaries and being safe. But we're a very active family, and so it's been pretty exciting. My mom and dad are currently planting a bunch of rows of lavender.
Yeah.
But no, so outside of swimming, yeah, mostly video, spending time with friends fishing. In the summertime, my dad and I and my sister, mostly we go out and we wakeboard. But then again, that's part of our cross training for swimming because it's just core and it's just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think what else. We cycle a lot, so riding bike.
Yeah.
I was just given a bike from Giant and Schramm, and they put a really nice road bike together for me, so I'm excited to start riding that. I went through a period, actually, maybe a couple weeks ago, with the whole Fortnite craze.
I wanted to get to that.
Yeah.
I was watching. I'll let you continue with the story, but I was watching your getting to know with Cody Miller.
The vlog. Yes.
And I wanted to say I was really impressed with how introspective, but how honest and transparent you are when talking to your audience or your fans or whoever it is, and talking about how that kind of took over your life and it affected your creativity. I found it really, well, one, refreshing, but two, it actually helps me out too. I have a son that's he's only 6 years old, but he's been obsessed with creativity and Lego, and then his cousins gave him, or his grandparents gave him, like a Nintendo DS9, and all of a sudden everything that's creative is out the window. He's only about Nintendo now, and he doesn't create anymore.
Yeah.
We're trying to think if, should we just take it away and be mean parents, but maybe it'll help him in the long run, or
yeah.
But so go on with your story.
I don't know how to give advice from a parent standpoint, but one thing my parents did with me is obviously always encourage me to be creative, and I have to understand, which is hard, because now that I'm 19, I feel like, I'm an adult and I want to live my own life and things like that. But I realized under my parents' house, it's their rules.
Yeah.
So, if they say something, that's what goes. And I think that's something you have to set in stone early on, because it's hard to change in the future. But yeah, no, I would often, I have to earn time to play video games. And as I've gotten older, I realized these video games are literally achieving nothing for me. I could be creating an online course. I could be making a video. I could be growing myself and actually making an income from what I'm doing, or I could be sitting here playing with a bunch of strangers online, shooting a first-person game where it's the graphics aren't even real. It's what am I doing? And so that was hard for me. It's figuring out, okay, as much fun as this is, the dopamine release and stuff that's being created, it's all false. And in order to continue to be excited by it, it has to escalate, and the chances of that happening are very slim, because I'm not ninja when it comes to gaming. I'm not a professional gamer, so it's just kind of figuring, okay.
Well, it's interesting when you talk, or when you start reading about the people that really created some of the, not the gaming platforms, but the tablets. So you read about the Steve Jobs.
They don't even let their
they didn't even let it in their own house, and then you start reading that Facebook, they created the because they knew they needed something for that dopamine release, and they've studied this, and so it's I'm glad that you're able to recognize that, because I don't yet.
it's hard, and I mean, there's no way I'm not even close to being an expert at it or even having control over it. It's just understanding what it does to your brain is so powerful.
Yeah.
But
so are you still playing at all?
No, so I played 3 days ago with a buddy, but other than that, I really haven't been playing much. The only time I really play is the weekends, maybe for an hour here or there. But other than that, like, I'm usually pretty busy with either editing or napping or training.
Yeah.
And so, no, I mean, it's easy to find time to waste it. The hard part is being able to kind of, I don't know, account for my time. Like, so, you know, obviously replace it with something more productive, even if that's just fishing. Because, you know, I notice when I go outside, I realize, oh, wow, it's so beautiful out here. Like, it gives, you know, the earth gives life. And so, interesting.
The, your pond where you fish, do you have to stock it yourself, or does it naturally have fish in there?
Yeah, so it's actually really weird. We have there's this massive pond that belongs to our neighbor, and a little bit of it comes onto our land, and so we can legally get rights to it. But he built this silt pond with the guy that previously owned our house.
Yeah.
And somehow there's bass in there, like really nice bass, and some bluegill and stuff like that. And we've never stocked it, but every year it seems to get bigger and bigger. And just the other day I caught one of my largest, actually yesterday, my largest bass out of it, and it was really nice. But yeah, no, we've never had to stock it, which is super awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And since we got on the subject of creativity and editing, can we talk about your YouTube channel for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah. How did you decide to get started in that? Actually, before we get to that, how much time are you spending on editing, and is it something that you've had to be, because I'm obviously learning some of this stuff myself now too, and it's definitely probably easier than it was, 10, 20 years ago, but there's definitely a learning curve. So how did you get into it, and are you enjoying it?
Yeah, massive learning curve. So for me, I started off a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I made a couple YouTube videos when we were in South Africa. We were there visiting our family. Yeah, it was 3 years ago, 2015, first time being back in South Africa. And I made some videos just to kind of document it, and I ended up putting it on YouTube and got good viewership. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And I enjoyed making the videos. And even now I'll go and watch those videos back, and it's like, man, the memories and stuff that come from it are so real. And so I was like, why not continue to do this? And obviously with the massive boom YouTube has had in the last couple of years, it's become a place where you can also make an income, even though it's a small income just from AdSense and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, why not? Let's do it. And I also realized there's no other real swimmers. Obviously now Cody Miller has started, and then Calvin Justice was in it for quite a while, and I'm good friends with both of them. And so I was like, yeah, this is sweet. Why not be creative? And it's something that I feel like I have a talent for. And I also think it's something that outside of my swimming career, later down the road, I can continue to do. I can continue to teach through it and stuff like that. And yeah, so I jumped at it, and it was great. Like, the first couple weeks was awesome. And then it became a chore because I started to instead of it becoming something I wanted to do, it became something I had to do.
Yeah.
And so that perspective kind of shifted, and it became really difficult to create videos and edit it and stuff. And I became unsatisfied with what was happening. And so I ended up taking a break just naturally, because I just kind of had a block. And that's something I constantly deal with. Is I feel like when I edit, I watch these other YouTubers and these content creators who do it really professionally, and the video is amazing 100% of the time, and the color is perfect, and the audio is sound and all that, and so I judge myself to that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this sucks,
Yeah.
And when other people watch, they're like, wow, that's super cool. And so it's kind of just figuring out I gotta create for me and not for others. But no, I love YouTube. It's really nice for me to be able to have something outside of swimming where I can have an influence and be able to better reach my audience. And that's one thing too, is I've noticed only so much can be shared on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't often, obviously I get to see more people in person than most athletes because I'm always racing and traveling. But YouTube, I feel, is a little more personal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's edited to a degree, but it's nice. It's a nice way for me to be able to answer and kind of give back. And then on the other side of it too, I realized that sponsors are looking for more than just an athlete. They're looking for an influencer.
Yes.
And so if I can be both an athlete and someone who's a creative mind and exciting to be around and make these cool productions, it just adds to the table. And so I thought, why not?
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job. I really enjoy your channel. Yours and Cody's, actually. He's another person I'd like to talk to, but I haven't been able to reach. But Calvin, you mentioned, he's going to be on the show in a few weeks as well. So it's
Cool.
I like, not just for the opportunity to kind of, learn from each other, but I like finding out the motivation behind it and where it's coming from. But the content that you're releasing, it's it's honest, and I think I mentioned before, it's transparent, but it's entertaining too, and I'm really enjoying it. So
Thank you. That's good to hear.
Yeah. And are there any other platforms that you're really enjoying? I know that you said you can't do as much with Instagram, but you're very active on Instagram too.
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram because it's not difficult for me to curate a nice photo and put a cool caption to it, and it's an easy way to keep people updated with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I also use Instagram to drive try and drive more traffic to my YouTube page, which is nice now with it being verified. You have like all these swipe up links and stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy how technology becomes easier and easier to link it forward. But my main social media is definitely Instagram and then YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't do with Twitter. I just kind of have it feed through and never really gotten into a lot of other things. Facebook to me just seems archaic almost. Like only the old people I know are on Facebook.
That makes me laugh. They always say as soon as your mom gets on a platform, then it's done for the younger generation.
Right, exactly.
And do you find that so you're part of the current swimming community? Where do you find that they're gathering most? Like, are most people not on Facebook anymore, or like is it Instagram for most of them?
I think there's still a lot. Obviously, Facebook's massive. Like it's gigantic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, they'll watch the live streams through Facebook and Twitter. Twitter's doing really well because USA Swimming, they'll link like all of their pages and when the stream is going up and stuff like that, and they'll access to there. So it's kind of, they use all three platforms really well.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't know how much they're doing on Facebook just because I never check it. So I don't know, but they do a lot with their imagery. Like they have incredible photographers and stuff like that, as they should, and keep everyone up to date really well, especially with their pro series. That's kind of their focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Social media, it's crazy.
You're giving me some really natural segues here. I wanted to talk to you about the pro series, especially maybe get your thoughts on the team that you're on. So we interviewed a couple weeks ago. We spoke with Caitlin Sandino, who I believe is your team captain. And
I love Caitlin.
She was so generous with her time. It was amazing. She gave us time on her wedding anniversary. I felt so bad after, but she was great, and she spoke very highly of you. But can you tell us maybe how you're enjoying the format of the pro series, because they're really trying to make it more exciting and fan friendly. Yeah. And then maybe we can get into some thoughts of some of the people on your team as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think what they're doing with the Pro Series was amazing. Maybe not amazing, but really a great step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously, the biggest point I love is the 50s. So adding 50s shootouts.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly exciting to watch. It's exciting to be a part of. Albeit it's really hard, but it is. It's a really cool event, and the prize money is higher in those shootouts, which is nice for us athletes, because in the world of swimming, not a lot of that.
Yep.
And then I think one of the things that kind of missed was the squad relays. it really hasn't been as exciting. And a lot of national team athletes have actually opted out of it. And so we've had an issue filling all 4 relays because I think in Mesa we had to do it one relay where it was all guys instead of the mix. And so it kind of takes away from it being, a real mixed relay. And so I feel like that's something that hasn't really helped them.
Now, why are some of these athletes opting out?
Just because there's no they don't see any value for themselves, and I think it makes sense because there's not really much prize money. So I think there's like $200 for the relay team that has the quickest reaction times.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no real incentive. And then with the medley relay or the mystery relay or whatever, mystery medley. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the same thing. It's like these guys swim well in the 2IM, they make that spot, but they have to ultimately fill those spots with national junior teamers because the big guys don't really want to swim it because it's like, what's the point? Because there's no records, there's no comparison around the world or times. And I understand that. And so, but I think the 50s is a massive hit.
Yeah.
And they're definitely doing a good job. I think there's a lot more viewership, especially on NBC. Like I have neighbors here in Lawrence and people who come up to me and say, "Hey, I saw you on TV the other day at the sports bar, and I was at Applebee's, and this was on." And it's like, oh, cool. Like so, swimming's starting to get a little more traction.
Yeah.
Which is good because before this, it really felt like it was only every 4 years for 2 weeks, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
So.
And that's I've said this on every episode we've recorded so far, but that's one of the main reasons why we wanted to do a show like this was, when there was never any content for me when I was an age grouper other than a monthly swim magazine 10 months a year. That's it. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I remember, every once in a while I'd see the results of a meet, and that's how I would find out that a lot of people had retired or. There was no announcements that this person was done or that this person is, training with this new coach. Right. It was just kind of like one day they were gone and you never heard from them again.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you're doing. This is exciting.
Yeah. So going back to the Pro Series, outside of the mystery medley and the relays, is there anything else that you could kind of recommend? So you're the one in the trenches there that could take them even further in the right direction. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, and it's good. I mean, I haven't thought a lot about it. Obviously, the 50s are great. We have a really good international presence, which is nice. Yeah. And it seems like it's right now the Pro Series is really the only meet where a lot of the national teamers show up. Obviously, national teamers really don't race a whole lot outside of those meets because there's no other prize meets in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a massive opening for other people who want to start pro meets. So like I just raced in a meet in Kentucky 2 weeks ago, the Kentucky Derby. It was just 350s, shootout style, 8 guys, 8 girls, massive crowd, lots of attention, media loved it, super exciting event, prize money. The athletes enjoy it. And we had, there was only 2 guys from the U.S. racing, everyone else was international. And it's like there's massive room for more prize money meets. Like Europe does a lot. I'm going to be racing in Mare Nostrum this June, so I go Cannes, Barcelona, Monaco.
Yeah,
like those type of events. Like I think we can set up a whole lot more in the U.S. because we have incredible facilities. Obviously, we have the money, but I mean, who knows where that money is actually going? And so I think they're doing a good job. It's kind of tough to say because like I'm not really in a place to speak.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm the athlete and stuff, but I'm not the business mind, and I don't know. I do know that USA Swimming, I saw something on Twitter the other day about them, was it allowing alcohol sales at Pro Series meets?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I hadn't seen that, but I get that sporting event. You make it more in line with the...
Exactly. So it happens at every other sporting event, basketball, baseball, whatever. I mean, I think we're a pretty not really a rowdy bunch, actually. some moms can get a little crazy, but other than that, I mean, I feel like maybe it's not a bad idea, because if you think about it, swimming is incredibly boring. At least obviously, if you're not watching like a specific athlete, typically I wouldn't go to a meet just to watch it for fun, right?
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Yeah.
If there's someone I'm invested in, I'm watching an athlete or I'm racing myself, it's exciting. And that's why the 50s are so exciting, because it's short, and then the athletes are out and we speak and we engage, and it's fun. So it's really just finding ways to make it a little more enjoyable. But I don't know. I don't condone alcohol. I'm not a fan of it, and so it's like, yeah, maybe good for the sport, maybe not good for the people. It's kind of a figuring out what's the moral line that you draw.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't know. How do you make it? I mean, it's really impossible to make it like basketball or football, because that's just everyone does that, right?
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, those franchises, like you really can't create that same thing, because people don't really invest into the teams.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? One thing that would be interesting, and I mean, I don't know if it's legal or whatever, but when I was at the Kentucky Derby, we went to the horse races the night after the meet.
Yeah.
And we all got to bet on the horses, right? We would see who's going to race. What are the odds? Do we box it? Do we this and that? I feel like maybe some meets you open the thing where you can bet on the athletes. Because some athletes show up. Some athletes are in a great training regime. I noticed in Atlanta, most of the Texas guys showed up fully tapered and shaved. The others weren't. Yeah. It's like figuring out, okay, what's the inside scoop? Who's going to be doing this and that? I don't know. That creates a little more excitement than a fantasy league swimming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just kind of me spitballing.
Yeah, I think there's probably room for both. I mean, I like the fantasy aspect of it. I really enjoyed the draft part of it. I don't know if that was something that you followed as somebody that was, up for being drafted.
Yeah.
But
I get the tweets from my Lezak squad and the different people who are in the fantasy league, like, oh, we're cheering for Michael in our fantasy league swim for this race. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, but
yeah,
I never know.
Yeah. I think looking at the squads, I mean, everybody has their strategy, but I think Caitlin, I think she got it right. Just the picks that she made, and I'm surprised that there was some of the names that were left for her when it was her turn, and I think she made some really good decisions. Yeah. We talked about it on her episode too, but I mean, you swim a lot of events at every race. Like you're a no-brainer to pick you, but the other one, I think a lot of people were surprised with Leah Smith, and I was saying that I think she's probably the most underrated swimmer out there today. I don't think she's given the credit that she deserves, and it's just it would be like being an IMer during the Michael Phelps era. Like it's it's hard to compete against Ledecky, right?
Right, it is very.
Yeah.
No, and Leah's amazing. I love Leah.
Yeah.
But no, I think the team is really powerful, but the tough thing is we've had meets where some of us are either not there or mentally don't show up for the race knowing, okay, we're not going to perform. And so it really messes our scores. And so that's been an issue. Like, I think I'm only doing one more pro series this year. So I'm not going to be in Indy next week. I'm actually racing in Atlanta. And then Santa Clara is the same weekend I fly to France. So, which is kind of a bummer, because I feel like, oh man, like this is one of the first years where I've been making points and stuff in the pro series and actually helping out the team, and I love Caitlin and stuff like that. So it's like, but no, it's what we got to do. But
yeah. So when you're going to when you're going to the pro series, do you end up it's really an informal team. It's a fantasy team, but are you getting together and kind of talking about?
Not with the other athletes. But I DM Caitlin every once in a while, like, hey, this is what we're going to be swimming, and I'm feeling really good in this, and this is how training's been here. And so I don't know how much of the other athletes are doing that, but like I always kind of make sure to like just stay in touch, because I realize she's my team captain and she's kind of doing all these decisions. And it's got to be really tough, because like I spoke with her and she said, yeah, she's been out of the swimming world for a period of time, and so figuring out who does what and when are they going to show up and stuff is a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of chatted back and forth with her, trying to make it a little easier on her. But I mean, that kind of makes it a little more exciting too, because it's kind of fun to be involved like that.
Yeah.
For those things. So yeah.
All right. So let's. I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I'd like to kind of. I know in your show you do some rapid fire. These aren't quite going to be rapid fire, but still kind of getting to know questions.
Okay.
So if you're going to swim this weekend, but you can only swim one event. What's the event you pick?
50 free.
50 free. And who would you say, if you had to have your kind of Mount Rushmore of 50 freestylers, who are the 4 names that you put on that mountain?
Oh boy! Like, is my face on there as well?
No, it can't be you. It's got to be kind of like, you can go anywhere in history, and who are kind of your top 4 names, not including yourself?
Yeah. So let's see. I think I definitely put Caleb up there.
Yeah.
I love Caleb. Caleb's a good friend of mine, strong believer, really cool dude. He's been swimming incredibly as well, as everyone knows.
Yeah.
Bruno Fratis.
Yeah.
So Bruno's a good buddy of mine. I raced him in Kentucky. Let me think, who else? Oh, Ben Proud. Absolutely. Yeah. So I love Ben. Ben is an Adidas athlete. He swims for Energy Standard out of Turkey, but he represents UK.
Yeah.
Really cool dude. Massive shoulders and chest. Trying to think. One more. 50 guys. I'll go. Well, it's between Nathan, Adrian, or Vladimir Morozov. Probably Nathan.
Yeah.
But both of those guys are incredible. I've raced them a lot. And actually Nathan for sure. I love Nathan. I've learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And what's so cool is he's been very open to me.
Yeah.
And he enjoys seeing me progress. And so I'll speak to him about like advice and things, and I'll watch him how he breathes and how he gets ready for his race. And so I've learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And
is he as nice as he looks? This is totally a superficial judgment, but every time I see a picture or a video of that guy, I know he's a giant, but all I think is that guy's got to be the nicest guy in the world. He just looks like a nice guy. Nice. Yeah.
Him and Matt Grievers both like friendly giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's incredible, and he really is. He's a genuine guy. So
yeah,
kind of my 4.
Yeah,
Caleb.
Well, our names. Well, I guess you really went with all the current swimmers. I was kind of. I guess I'm from a different area, so I look at. I can't help but think of like Matt Biondi, Tom Jagger, Alex Popov. Yeah.
Well, so when I started swimming at a young age, like I was never into the history of it. Like I didn't really follow it a lot. I wasn't into who was who. I mean, Mark Spitz, obviously, but that's just because everyone knew Mark Spitz.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I know everything about everyone now, but not on the past.
No, that's fair enough. I shouldn't expect you to. I just it shows because when I started swimming, like I started in like the peak of Matt Biondi and the rise of Alex Popov, but
right.
And that just Popov. Sorry, what's that?
No, Popov's amazing. There's a lot of things with our science. We learned a lot about Alexander Popov and the way he trained. Very interesting dude.
Yeah. All right, so we got the event that your best event or your favorite event is the 50 free. What about your least favorite? I know you recently had least favorite stroke, and it looks like it's backstroke right now. But if you were going to be punished in some way, which event would be the punishment?
4 a.m.
4 a.m. I was gonna guess 200 fly, but 400 a.m. that's a pretty grueling event. Yeah.
Oh, the 200 fly. I enjoy the 200 fly every once in a while.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I've swum it a couple times. It's not something I enjoy doing all the time, but I'll do it here and there. I dabble.
So when you do dabble, what kind of times are you putting up in it?
Oh, so when I was 14, I broke the national record in all the 50, all the 100s, all the 200s, and the 400 IM.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know what I put up now. Probably about the same times I was swimming then.
Yeah.
But yeah, 400 IM. My mom loves the 400 IM, and so she's always kind of wanted me to do that race. And there was a season where I focused entirely on that just to break the national record, because everyone said that it couldn't be done the way I train. And so they're like, okay, just watch us. And so we did it. And mom and dad thought, yeah, maybe I'd stick with the 4 IM because I broke it and I had some success in it. But that race, I mean, no matter how good the swim is, it always hurts so bad. It's one of those grueling races.
Even the best 400 IMers in the world, almost all of them end up dropping from their from their schedule.
They don't enjoy it.
Yeah. And I had another question for you and I just lost it. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna have to get back on track here. Oh yeah, so you had mentioned that your mom wanted you to swim the 400 IM. How much say does your team get in what you're going to swim at specific meets? Do you? I imagine. Well, I'll let you answer that first, and then I'll get into the dynamic.
Yeah. So our most of the race selection, at least now, is just done between my dad and I.
Yeah.
And so that has to do with, okay, what records are we focusing on, or teams are we trying to make, or where's our training at? And then in the past, there was a lot of input from mom and dad and myself too, but I felt like I was at a place where I really wanted to do everything I could to please, I guess.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was against doing those races. It's just I would have rather done something else.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, it's actually really good that my mom pushed me to do the 400 IM and the longer races, because I had success in those. I had the opportunity to like it. I still didn't, and so I have the freedom now to say, okay, I'm a sprinter at heart. But being able to complete those races and do well gives me a lot of confidence, especially in the shorter races. So I'm like, okay, if I can finish that, I can definitely finish this. So, that's kind of my take.
Okay, so that leads me into the dynamic between you and your dad, because you're 19. You like you said, you're an adult now, or as close as you're going to get anyway. But so you've come from you've been doing this kind of training for what, 9 years now? I think you said you discovered in 2009, and you turned pro at 14. So, but now you're coming to an age where naturally you want to have more say in your life. Is that changing the dynamic in terms of not just the decision making, but the relationship that you have with your dad as a coach? And
I feel like it's becoming a little more professional.
Yeah.
That's something we've always strived for, but really just in the last year, it's become very, very focused and deliberate. And more on my part, Dad's always been super professional about it, I feel.
Yeah.
And but the dynamic has changed a bit. Mom doesn't have much. I mean, she has her input, like she can speak what she wants me to race, but the power is a lot less than it used to be, and so it's usually me and Dad, and so we're very tight with how we do everything, and it makes sense because it's him and I in the pool all the time together.
Yeah.
And so we know the ins and outs of what we're trying to do and where it's going, and but it doesn't. Our relationships haven't changed at all. Like, we are an incredibly tight family, and really blessed to do what we do.
Yeah.
But now it's definitely become a bit more professional, which I enjoy. And there's a lot more independence now on my side. It's like I have a little more freedom to, make decisions and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the meet we should go to. Now let's not go there. And it's just trying to figure out, okay, what's best for all of us. And so, yeah, it's been really, really good.
And would you have been comfortable trying to exercise that independence even, say, 3 years ago?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think it would have been good. There would have been more mistakes for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like having done it the way we have, I've learned a lot without having to go through the pain of failing or making the dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, definitely a lot less headaches than there could have been.
Yeah. Great. And last thing before I kind of wrap it up here, I'm going to change subjects here completely. But you've mentioned the Wim Hof breathing a couple times in some of your videos, and I discovered him through the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's been he's been on the Joe Rogan Experience at least twice that I've listened to. So I've probably listened to about 5 hours of him talking. He's a fascinating man. Pardon me?
Very interesting dude.
Yeah. So how did you discover him, and how much, like, how big a part of your racing is his breathing exercises?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start with it. It's not a massive part. It's something we do every night before going to bed, and that's kind of that's our Wim Hof. We don't do any of it on race day, at least before, because of the weird tingly sensation. But most of the crazy things that we come across is actually found by either my mom or my dad. Like, they're always, I have no idea where they get it. With Wim Hof, I think we first saw him on, it was Lewis Howe's podcast on like, what's his Lewis Howe's thing? It's like Something to Greatness or whatever. But he was on there and he demonstrated and he spoke about it. And then we watched his Joe Rogan things, and we continued to kind of seek it. And then we looked into the science of it. And obviously the crazy things he had done backed it up. And then we found this video by a small YouTuber, Ob McKenzie, but it's a visual diary kind of how to do the whole process, very simplified. And so we're like, yeah, let's give this a shot. And so we did it, and we've really loved it, and we've noticed a massive difference. It's actually ever since then that I've been able to go no breath in the 50 long course, which may be more mental than it is physical, but it's definitely been really, really good. And obviously there's more benefits from the breathing than just the breath control. Obviously it's like the cold adaptation and energy and muscle repair and all of that, which is massive.
Yeah, no, he's an interesting guy. Can we expect to see you climbing, Mount Kilimanjaro barefoot in your Speedo anytime soon?
Definitely not.
Yeah,
I've never been one for hiking. I mean, I love nature, but hiking, no.
Yeah, well, he did like a marathon in the Arctic barefoot. He's just he's not.
It's crazy. I remember he did like 50 meters underwater in the Arctic Circle or something.
Yeah.
Nuts.
I'm convinced it's more like he's probably been lobotomized at some point in his life than actual breathing exercises. But he's super interesting. All right.
Well, and I think it's a lot of it is incredibly powerful in the mind.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed too, is with my racing, I think there's so little that separates the top dogs from each other.
Yeah.
Except the mind. The mind is massive. And I think that's one thing I've loved about Nathan is mentally he is so strong.
Yeah.
He's so consistent because of it. I don't think he's always physically been as strong as he is. And so same for me. Like, I've noticed I've only been doing really well now that I believe I'm strong. It's so, like, the mind is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned consistency. I think Nathan Adrian's, he's got to be the most consistent. If not 50 freestyle, he's probably the most consistent 100 freestyler I've ever seen.
I'm more 100 than 50 for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. You were pretty consistent at the World Juniors when you threw up the same time in the 50 3 times.
That was really fun.
Yeah. Well, I think we did it. Thank you so much for you've been very generous with your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed speaking with you. So thank you so much.
This is great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that is it for episode 2 and our interview with Michael Andrew. Thank you so much to Michael for giving us so much of his time. And also thank you for agreeing to come back to the show at some point, hopefully the first of many visits, to answer any questions that some of our listeners may have. So if you do have any questions that we didn't get to on the show, please send them to jason@swimguys.com or rory@swimguys.com. He will not miss another episode. At least not with Michael. So he's kicking himself right now. But send those questions to us as well. Don't forget to check out Michael's YouTube page and his Instagram. As we mentioned at the beginning, they are amazing, super interesting, fun, informative. They're really good. Thank you to Magnus Hughes for the Here's Michael intro at the beginning of the show. And thank you to you, dear listeners, for coming and listening to the show again. So please do not forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great week. We'll see you next Monday.